Marvel has every right to put out the kind of book that they like. That's their business, to sell books. And if some of these books don't go well, there's an element in these books that should be corrected. And the same goes for any other company and any other independent.
So every once in a while here on the channel, I bring my good friend Joe Corallo here. We'll talk about maybe some characters that just seem to have lost their way. Maybe obviously the character didn't lose their way, but the creative efforts and the publishers kind of lost their way with the character. Last few weeks we've been talking about characters they've been getting right. Daredevil, Swamp Thing. We're gonna get back to a character that feels like Marvel just kind of drops the ball over and over again. Obviously, even with the current series, Captain America, one of the most beloved characters in Marvel Comics history, one of the most widely known superheroes in the world because of the Avengers movies and Chris Evans' wonderful portrayal of the character. Here to talk with me about some of the character history and some of the things they were getting wrong with the character is independent writer, independent editor, award-winning editor, Joe Corallo. Are you ready to talk about some Cap?
I am, Wes.
March is the 80th anniversary of Captain America.
Yeah.
A huge milestone for the character. They're going to come out with this. It's like a double issue tribute to Captain America. It's going to include Captain America #1, obviously the introduction of Joe Simon and Jack Kirby's creation. We'll talk about that here in a second because there was some controversy with that one. That's got the iconic cover with Cap punching Hitler. And it's been reimagined, I believe, with Mark Brooks on the cover. And then they're also going to have Avengers #4, where essentially they find Captain America on ice. I believe Alex Ross is kind of redoing the illustration of when he was discovered. It's going to be all new Marvel Comics artists basically reinterpreting the old stories. Getting into Captain America #1, obviously, I think a lot of people probably think this was released like in the middle of World War II.
Yeah,
technically World War II had started, but Pearl Harbor hadn't even happened. America wasn't in the fight yet.
Yeah, we were not in the fight. We weren't even that close necessarily to getting in at that moment. We were very much staying out of it. There were a lot of Nazi sympathizers still in the United States who were openly holding rallies and trying to persuade America to join on the side of the Axis powers. So it was very much a controversial sort of take at the time, especially for this comic that's supposed to be this mainstream available at newsstands kind of thing.
It did not go unnoticed for creators Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, obviously two well-known Jewish creators. I believe both men, after the creation and publication of Captain America, ended up going to Europe and fighting in the war effort in World War II. It's an iconic cover. What was put in behind it with Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, and what I think Captain America stood for them, and maybe the Jewish community probably in America during World War II, was very symbolic. And they got a lot of hate. I guess they got a lot of death threats, and it wasn't really safe for them to go to work after that.
Yeah, no, I know there were, pieces written or interviews where Jack talked about getting threats and things like that. And he wasn't very shy about that, and he was more than willing to stand up for himself. So that stuff wasn't a problem. But, then he would go to war, come back, and then he, for a while, mostly did romance comics. Through the 50s, it was almost all romance kind of comics. He was almost in a way like a pioneer of romance comics at the time, and he worked on a lot of them with Stan Lee. It's also important to note, despite the fact that Stan did not create Cap, I'm almost certain the first superhero he ever wrote or worked on when he was at, not Marvel at the time, I guess it was Timely, was Captain America, his earliest superhero assignment. So he does have these old sort of ties to the character. And then, obviously he worked with Jack to revitalize the superhero genre that had died after the war, and in the 50s, superheroes just were not it. That's not what was selling. It was romance comics that were selling and things like that. Yeah, horror was also big. So, you know, again, this is just things to keep in mind when we're having these conversations and talking about like, oh, this will never happen or that'll never happen, or, you know, superhero comics are dead and manga's on the rise and stuff. Like, nothing's permanent. Things do shift. And even if it seems like it's never going to change, it changes all the time. So it took, you know, the Fantastic Four to revitalize the superhero genre. And then it was about, you know, roughly 2 years or so after that where we got the reintroduction of Captain America after the successful return of other characters from the Golden Age like Namor.
Yeah, it was interesting when they reintroduced him. Like, there were some like imposter Captain America. So the idea of like an imposter or fake Captain America has been around like since the 40s and stuff like that. But it was firmly established that it was Steve Rogers in Avengers #4 when they discovered Steve in the ice and he kind of returned. There have been some great runs over the years. I don't personally think there's been another like a good run of Captain America like since, is it 2007 and Ed Brubaker's run is over?
Brubaker was on that for so long. I want to say, was it the early 2010s? Like, because he started right like a couple of years before Civil War, like a year and a half before Civil War, and then it went so long. It was probably around 2009, 2010. It's
2009.
Yeah. So, you know, Brubaker, you know, a lot of people really love that run. You know, I'm not disagreeing with that. It's solid run. It pulls so much from the older stuff, and I think more people would benefit from reading the older stuff to get more of what Brubaker was doing. And I think it kind of lifts everything up. I think it increases your how much you enjoy Captain America in general, and it also gives you a revitalized interest in Brubaker's run because you see all these characters and all these plot threads and stuff that he's kind of pulling together from these older runs, because he was a big fan of Cap and was reading the solo series as he was growing up. Obviously, people talk about, you know, Stan and Jack taking over the book again. Jack had his own run, which I believe is coming back in print in an omnibus in March. You know, it was from like 193 to like 214, like in that area, where Jack's writing and drawing that particular run. And, you know, before that, you know, there's a lot of, you know, Stan. I think there was a little bit of Roy Thomas, but that might have been before it went back to the numbering. One of the big classic runs in that time was, you know, Steve Englehart, and it was at Sal Buscema.
The original Secret Empire.
It's the original Secret Empire, the introduction of Nomad, all that stuff. And that's from like issue 156 to like 186 or 7. And it's in that run, but it's all going to be in an omnibus collection for the first time, coming out in July, on July 6th. If you never read it, it's one of the better runs of Cap. It's hard to find a better run. You know, people put that run up there with the Roger Stern, John Byrne, and aspects of, you know, Grunwald's run.
So interesting, you'll bring it up, Secret Empire. I think this is where, I don't know, is this the definitive place where Captain America kind of just falls off the rails and hasn't recovered? Or do you think this was just, you know, they've been kind of working up to this? And I think Nick Spencer might have sabotaged himself by looking at the big reveal in Secret Empire by Steve Englehart with Buscema on art, is eventually Captain America, like, it turns out the bad guy is Nixon.
Yeah.
He essentially offs himself. Captain America is distraught, gives up the shield, which has happened several times. And I think like a young man ends up taking over the mantle of Captain America. He gets killed, and then, you know, Captain America realizes how important the symbolism and stuff like that is. But the big reveal is the Nixon reveal. And I guess, do you think Nick Spencer was trying to like outdo Steve Englehart with the Cap was a Nazi the whole time, the Hydra Cap? reveal.
Yeah, I mean, it is going for that more extreme sort of thing because everyone has to keep rehashing everything, but do it more extreme.
You gotta up the ante.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that Hickman's Secret Wars was trying to up the ante of the original Secret Wars. The same thing. It's this huge like cosmic sort of thing. Same thing sort of here. I mean, it was a horrendous misfire. There was the whole controversy with Marvel sending like Hydra merch to shops and like T-shirts and things to try to get them to promote it, and people were very upset about that. It ended up driving Nick Spencer off Twitter. He he took on Spider-Man after that, but I think it's safe to say they were expecting Nick Spencer and Spider-Man to be a huge blockbuster following, Secret Empire. But because of the backlash, because of how horrendously miscalculated that was, it ended up being kind of swept under the rug. And Spider-Man has kind of, despite if you like the stories or not, this is not a critique on the stories. Marvel's not putting their money behind pushing those books.
It took me a long time before I trusted Nick Spencer. I was like, I don't care what people are saying. I'm not coming on Spider-Man. I've come in here and there, but I can tell you right now, as soon as his story arcs start going down, I dip out. I just don't trust him. I was like, this is going somewhere bad. Now, one of my big issues with the Hail Hydra Captain America reveal is the history of the character in the creators.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Simon, Jack Kirby, two Jewish creators created Captain America to mean something, probably symbolize something for them, and likely for their community in America as the World War II was happening in Europe. Two men that eventually went over to Europe, went there and fought.
Yeah.
To not realize what that character likely symbolized originally, and the original intent of the character, it felt like, I don't want to go too far. Am I overreacting that just offends me so greatly?
No, I don't think it's an overreaction. I clearly this was an issue of them being tone deaf. This was not them intentionally trying to incite negative feelings in people. This was, Marvel genuinely thinking that this was going to be a good idea, that they were going to get people to tune in because it was so outlandish.
Controversy, gets you the headlines.
And if they didn't fumble the ending, I think a lot of people would have, forgiven it and moved on. But the ending was really fumbled and all over the place. Technically, the real Cap was still a Nazi.
Yeah, I mean, the Cap we have now is the Cosmic Cube Cap.
Yeah.
Which Nick Spencer specifically said when people said, you're just going to use the Cosmic Cube to do this. And he said, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And then he did it.
And in fairness to that, that might have been something he had to say that was out of his control. Well,
you don't want to give away the big ending. But when people, they're like, that's just, your MacGuffin. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, look at this.
the MacGuffin cube's a MacGuffin? That's crazy. Yeah. But no, I mean, there's been a lot of, stumbling out the gate from there. I mean, even going back to, Rick Remender taking over after Brubaker with that sort of like interdimensional run with the Zola people and all of that. I mean,
it's really weird.
It was very weird. It didn't feel like
doesn't feel like a Captain America story.
And
feels like a Hulk story or something.
Yeah, and Remender's a great creator. He's done some amazing things. Uncanny X-Force, I think, is one of the best runs of a Marvel comic in the 2010s.
Yes.
I really like Deadly Class. I got to finish Black Science, but that was good. He does really good work. Cap was a weird place to be because Brubaker had so solidified that run, being on that book for about 5 years, maybe 4 and change, whatever it was, but reestablish Cap as, you know, a more down to earth, gritty kind of hero. So when that's thrown into your lap and you're trying to make Cap your own, if I do this, people are just going to say, oh, he's just doing what Brubaker was doing. And then you have to go in another direction. And then if you go in another direction, people are going to be like, this isn't the comic I was reading. Why am I still going to read it? I understand the overthinking that goes into that and how we get situations like Remender's Cap run. But, you know, overall, it wasn't nearly as well received as Brubaker's run. And it's just kind of been going downhill from there in a lot of ways. You know, I mean, we had little spurts here and there. You know, obviously earlier in Nick Spencer's run of Cap was not nearly as reviled as when we got to like Secret Empire.
Well, we also had, you know, Steve Rogers died in Brubaker's run. And we had a new Cap there for a while.
Yeah.
Which I don't think was necessarily doomed for failure. I think, you know, Sam as a replacement for Cap makes sense. He's Falcon and Cap have a long history together. You know, seems like a character that could take over the mantle, but the timing of it was just so terrible that I think people just went against it and tuned it out just because they did so much change at the exact same time.
Well, I mean, within about a decade, you had Bucky Cap with the death of Captain America. You know, like I think that was around 2007.
And even when Steve Rogers returned, he insisted that Bucky remain Cap.
Yeah,
he was the
Cap
fighting soldier or something.
Yeah, so you had Bucky have the mantle for a while. He was Captain America longer than any of the people fighting to have, you know, the mantle of Superman during the death of Superman got to be Superman. And then you know, it was like less than a decade after that, or, you know, about a decade, I think a little less than about a decade. Then you had the Sam Wilson Cap. It's like, what's going on here? Like, people don't know what to do with this character. They're just swapping around mantles because, you know, that's, I think, the frustrating
Have you
part.
read the Sam Wilson Captain America?
I read issues. I didn't read the whole run.
He doesn't sound like Sam Wilson or Captain America anymore. He sounds like President Obama. He was like speaking. It was like he was giving speeches. Like, who the hell? I get what they're going for. It feels so strange.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff. Again, that comes from the overthinking. It's just like, okay, so he can't sound like Cap. And he can't sound too much like Falcon because he's taking over Cap. So how would Falcon sound if he was trying to be Cap? You know, it's that kind of overthinking that like gets you into those situations where you get that kind of stuff happening. So I see where it happens. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that's where I think you get these sort of situations coming from. But then, you know, now we have, you know, Cosmic Cube Cap technically, you know, so
Yes.
So technically,
the real Cap is still a Nazi.
So
and the Cap in the comic is the Cosmic Cube Cap.
So in the last like decade, little over a decade, there's been like 4 different Captain Americas because we've had Hydra, Steve Rogers, Cosmic Cube, Steve Rogers, Sam Wilson, Bucky Barnes. You know, no one knows what to do with this character to make it, you know, go in a direction where we can just tell good stories. And, you know, you had Mark Waid briefly take over to kind of course correct the character, but that's not really what happened. It was just a story. And,
well, it was the best Captain America story since we've had Brubaker.
Yes, but, you know, you know.
I'm not the biggest Mark Waid fan, but it was acceptable.
No, Mark Waid loves Captain America. He's done, you know, solid work on that character with, you know, Ron Garney in the past. So that made sense. And then, you know, now we have, you know, the Ta-Nehisi Coates run, which, you know, I've dipped in and out. I've read a handful of issues. But the thing with that has been Marvel is not seemingly putting too much behind this run either. They're also similar to like Nick Spencer's Spider-Man, but even more extreme. They're not promoting this book. This book that, you know, is of a a character who's been in billion-dollar movies. There seems to be not too much direction. The most anyone talked about it was that Yas Queen panel or page from a few issues ago. That's bad.
No one speaks about Captain America, Ta-Nehisi Coates' run specifically for anything but the worst reasons possible. It's brief moments and snippets of just bad comic book writing. I think a lot of people thought it was a curious choice to begin with. And I think a lot of Marvel comic readers, and I don't know if they're just jaded by time or how many times they've seen it, that I think they've come to the conclusion that Marvel Comics is no longer interested in telling good Captain America stories. They're interested in putting new creators on there that are going to use the character to get whatever their mantra or their message out is, rather than getting Captain America's message out.
It's, yeah, I mean, it's an overall line problem. But here with Captain America, specifically with, Ta-Nehisi Coates on the book right now, he originally, when they first asked him to write comics, wanted to write Spider-Man. And they were like, no, you have to write Black Panther. So right off the bat, there's a problem. You're reaching out to someone.
Pigeonholed.
Yeah. You're reaching out to someone because you want them to write a comic. And then when they want to write a certain comic, you tell them no. You're already creating this kind of conflict and kind of guaranteeing for yourself that there's going to be not as high quality of a book as you wanted. But they did put the marketing and really pushed his Black Panther run in the beginning. It sold very well that first issue, and for a little bit after that. It was a bit of a different take than previous versions, but overall, people, it's
a lot of world building in that Black Panther run that he did, and to his credit, and I'll give it more to Brian Stelfreeze than him, is like the Wakanda you see in the movies is that Wakanda. It's not the one from Christopher Priest's Black Panther. It's not the one from the original Black Panther stuff, that the character stuff everyone cites. If you want to see what Wakanda is, you have to go to that Ta-Nehisi Coates, Brian Stelfreeze run.
Yeah, and then it seemed like, and this happens where they're just like, we still want you to write stuff. I don't know, we got Captain America. You want to write that? It comes off as this. There's no real plan. There's no vision. And that's part of the problem here. And we'll see what happens from here. But right now, Cap doesn't seem like a prioritized character. He doesn't seem like a character they're interested really pushing and developing and putting the talent behind to get the sales up. We'll see what ends up happening. It's sad because, again, this is a character who's been in billion-dollar movies, and they're not willing to put the talent and marketing push behind to sell comics. They're so stuck on the gimmicks. And to go a little bit more into that point when I was saying it's a line-wide problem, when you look at what Marvel's doing, I mean, this is a big two problem in general, but when you see what Marvel is doing and how they promote things, a lot of it is things like, oh, we put Dan Slott on Fantastic Four. I can't tell you what the hell's going on in Fantastic Four, but the marketing tells me that Dan Slott's on Fantastic Four. The marketing tells me that Nick Spencer's on Spider-Man. The marketing tells me that, oh, we got Hickman doing X-Men. And there's so much of a push of these like creators and particularly writers, because they rotate the artists so much, that we're not getting what's going on. Like I can be on Twitter, I can read some articles from these websites, but at the end of the day, it's like, oh, there's this event going on right now that Donny Cates is doing. What's it about? With Venom and Donny Cates. And it's like, that's not marketing. That's not bringing new people in. And if we're going to fix some of these things overall, there needs to be a change in marketing, change how it's approached. I should know what's going on in Cap without reading it regularly, so that way I know when it's a good time for me to jump back in, and I haven't in a long time.
I don't think anybody really has.
Yeah.
I talk about a lot of comics here on the channel. No one ever was like, you got to talk about Captain America, or good or bad. I think people are just completely indifferent to it anymore.
Yeah.
They don't really pay attention.
It should be a wake-up call to a company when people are like, I just saw this amazing, billion-dollar movie, is the highest grossing film of all time if you don't count inflation. So, what do I do if I want to go read Captain America? And for that company to say, well, go back and, we got some stuff from 12 years ago or so.
We got some Masterworks. We got some Epic collections.
That's bad. There needs to be, and that's not to disparage people working on the books now. No one is
direction.
There's no direction, but also no one's making these creators do things, and no one's making Marvel publish those comics. Those are comics that are being approved, that are going to the printer. No one's hijacked Marvel and it's like, you got to print this, Captain America comic. That's not happening. It's the buck stops at the top kind of thing. So as much as, we could talk about direction from creators and how this creator is doing this job or that job.
Oh, Marvel should be giving the direction. Where do you want to, what's the direction for Captain America? When's the next big team up when the Avengers have to get together? What's that big thread? Where does Captain America need to be here and there? What does he need to address? I think it's just like, go run with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do something weird with Captain America.
Yeah. It's like, and it doesn't seem hard to come up with some fun ideas. I think me and you and everyone listening to this video probably has a couple of just fun ideas. You could even do something like a Batman Hush kind of thing with Cap, where you spend a year of him just going all across the country fighting his iconic villains. It's not hard. Just, come up with something that people can enjoy. Going back to the Mark Grunwald run, it's up and down, but he was on that book for about 11 years. And not every villain is going to be the greatest villain ever made. For every Crossbones, you're going to get an armadillo. But we got Crossbones out of that. And Crossbones is one of the most iconic Cap villains today. We got Flag Smasher out of that. Flag Smasher is going to be playing a role in Falcon Winter Soldier. That's going to be cool. Flag Smasher is a really interesting character. And definitely people, if you haven't read any of the Mark Grunwald stuff, go back and check some of that stuff out. He died far too young. And, it's a real shame out of a lot of the creators that worked on Cap that Mark Grunwald wasn't here to see, Chris Evans, take on that role and to see that character be this just world-renowned hero. It's a real shame.
It is. You know what else is a shame? And we'll kind of leave it on this. So this is the state of Captain America. We had the return of the Red Skull, his greatest enemy of all time.
Mm-hmm.
No one cares.
Yeah. How many times has Red Skull returned?
Oh, yeah, that happens a lot.
It's like, you could do, it's like, oh, Red Skull's back. Oh, my shield's broken. Oh, I'm not allowed to be Cap anymore. It's like we could just run through
giving up the mantle because I don't believe in America. I'm questioning my loyalty. What if I believed it? Yes, it's the same story over and over.
Yeah, but one of the most renowned Mark Grunwald storylines, the Captain, where you have John Walker introduced, taking over as Captain America, that is supposed to be out as an Epic collection next month as well. It was previously just a fat trade that went out of print, but this Epic collection is supposed to be coming out next month as well. There is plenty of classic Cap coming out this year. If you haven't checked it out, check out Captain America, the Captain. Check out the third omnibus with the Steve Englehart run coming out in July. Check out the Jack Kirby omnibus coming out in March. If you don't read omnibuses and you like the floppies, look at the issues that come in those omnibuses and dive into those back issues.
Absolutely. It is the 80th anniversary of Captain America.
Yep.
Next month, we're going to have some tributes out to him. And I'm glad we got to talk about the character today.
Oh yeah, no, I love this character. I want more people to love him and appreciate him. He's not just cool when he shows up in the Avengers or, you know, in Civil War or something like that. He's a great character in his own right, in his own title, and more people should check it out.
And I do want to tell the viewers, next week, Joe and I'm going to pitch to Joe how I would fix Captain Marvel, and he's going to take a dump all over me and tell me how it should really be done. But we're not just going to talk about what's wrong with the characters. We're going to start working on how we would fix them. So I think that'll be more fun.
Yeah, no, that'll be fun. You know, almost as fun as checking out some great classic Cap stories.
100%.
Get on it, people.